Picture this, an entire city, thousands of people, every single one of them bows to something they made with their own hands. Stone, wood, statues carved in a workshop down the street, and into this city, a child is born who's going to question all of it. Not just question it, burn it down, literally. Ibrahim A.S. was born into a family in Mesopotamia, the region we now call Iraq, sometime around the era of ancient Babylon. His father, named Azar in the Quran, wasn't just a believer in idols, he made them. Verse 74 of Surah Al-An'am tells us Ibrahim alayhi said to his father Azar, questioning how he could take idols as gods when he saw him and his people in plain error. Not a stranger, not a king, his own father. That's how close to home this battle started. So what exactly was this whole society worshipping? Let's go through each one. The first, the carved idols, stone and wood, shaped into figures, some human, some animal, some just symbolic blocks. These weren't hidden away. They sat in temples. They sat in their homes. Families prayed to them before meals, before journeys, before big decisions. Azar's workshop would have produced exactly this kind of idol. Objects people paid for, took home, and treated as protectors. Tafsir explains that some of these idols represented angels because people believed they were too insignificant to reach Allah directly, so they used carved images as go-betweens. Second, the sky. Many in Ibrahim alayhi community also worshipped what was above their heads. The stars, the moon, the sun. To them, these weren't just lights. They were living powers controlling fate. And this is where one of the most famous moments in the Quran happens. Surah Al-An'am, verses 76 to 78 describes it. As night fell, Ibrahim alayhi saw a star and said, "This is my Lord." But when it set and disappeared, he said, "He does not love things that set." Then he saw the moon rising and said the same thing until it too disappeared. Then the sun, brighter and bigger than both. And when even that went down, he turned to his people and declared he was free from everything they worshipped besides Allah. Notice what he was doing. He was walking his people through their own logic, step by step, showing them that anything which rises and sets, appears and disappears cannot be the one true God. A real God doesn't vanish. Third, the bigger system behind all of it. Historians tell us ancient Babylon had a structured pantheon. Marduk, considered a chief deity of the city. Shamash, tied to the sun. Sin, also called Nana, tied to the moon. Alongside these major gods, there were countless smaller local idols. Household protectors, tribal statues, gods specific to one family or one town. It was a whole system, temples and priests included. 3 layers, all feeding one another. And here's the part people miss. This wasn't just belief, it was business. Carving idols, selling idols, running temples. Azar's workshop wasn't a hobby, it was an income. Faith and profit were tangled together. Pointing out the flaws in their gods was never going to be enough. Ibrahim alayhi salam was about to prove it with an axe. Surah Al-Anbiya, verses 57 to 58, tells us what happened next. Ibrahim alayhi salam privately resolved to take action against the idols once his people left for a festival. While the town was away celebrating, he went into the temple and broke every idol into pieces except the largest one. Verses 62 to 63 describe what happened when the people returned and found their gods shattered. They demanded to know who had done it. Ibrahim alayhi salam pointed to the biggest idol left standing and told them to ask it if it could speak. It was a trap built entirely out of their own logic, and for one brief moment, the Quran tells us in verse 64, they came back to their senses and admitted they were the wrongdoers. But pride is powerful, and so is money. Instead of accepting the truth, they turned on Ibrahim alayhi salam himself. This is where the story reaches its most famous turn. The people, unwilling to face the humiliation of powerless gods, demanded punishment. Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 68, tells us they called for him to be burned to defend their idols with fire since words hadn't worked. A massive fire was built. And then, in verse 69, Allah commanding the fire directly, "O fire, be cool and safe for Abraham." Not one flame touched him. And isn't that ironic? Their gods were supposed to be powerful enough to control everything, yet none of those gods could lift a finger to punish Ibrahim alayhi salam themselves. In the end, they had to burn him with their own hands. If their gods were real, why did the people have to do the dirty work? Here's the thing, this isn't just ancient history. It's still happening right now in places like India, where millions bow to stone and metal figures every single day. Same 3 layers Ibrahim alayhi salam stood against. They never fully disappeared, they just changed location. If this kind of Sirah breakdown is something you enjoy, there's more where this came from. Feel free to stick around. And please subscribe my channel to keep me motivated, because Satan tries so hard to stop me from making videos on Quran.